Hey, it's Feisty Fridays again. This week, tomorrow drops a newsletter that I feel continues to be my journey of figuring out what I believe about leadership. Sometimes you don't know what you believe until you actually slow yourself down, think about it. And I have been in leadership roles for ages and ages and ages, but I have been also subconsciously performing those leadership roles. And I say subconsciously because I I don't think I could make the distinction between what was really me and what was a performance of me because it was so important to me to have certainty, which I talked about last week. What I am learning, and I am still knowing, is that in the rooms that I lead in, I want to be less apt to rush. I actually want to take my self-discipline, of which I have to say, thank you, Dad, because my father had within him this robust ability to discipline himself. Most of my experience with my father was marked by watching him have incredible self-discipline. Whether that's something that I inherited from him or whether that's something that I just have because of observation of him, thank you to my father. I know he's watching me from wherever he is now with great affection and also probably chuckling at me because I have been able to take that self-discipline that I received or I have from him and really funnel it into um, disciplining myself to be comfortable with uncertainty, to essentially make it okay for me to practice not knowing everything. And I was so uncomfortable so much of my leadership life with the not knowing that I just pretended to know. And I always wanted to have an answer. And sometimes I came across in the form of an opinion, a strong opinion, but not always. Sometimes it was just me wanting to recount things that I had read because I had researched to create knowledge or to create a profound feeling of knowing so that I could not be stumped, I guess, by questions, by curiosities from others. I was quick to answer, sometimes incredibly convincingly, always confidently, but not always truthfully. And that is something that I have really recognized I want to unpack. And I want to encourage many of us to unpack it because I think there's a lot of us that do this. In fact, some of you do this so much that it becomes, well, essentially your hidden driver. So for instance, you feel, and you know, I was writing today and I'll release the newsletter tomorrow, but I was feeling like you get like a tightness in your chest and there's a quiet in the room and you feel almost like your mind has to race because you're like, what can I say? How can I solve the silence, but it's also like the calm that doesn't feel calm to you. It may actually not be that stressful for others, but it doesn't matter because you as a leader feel this obligation and you begin to recognize that you don't feel safe unless you blurt out something that you can be certain about. And we end up doing this. We fill the gap. I filled the gap. I have BS'd more gaps and pretended to be the one who knew just because I felt the gap itself made me vulnerable. But the discipline that I got from my dad, I've been able to turn into this in sitting without knowing. Um, where I first learned to do this was with my children. And I realized my children have and continue to test me in immeasurable ways. My children are not children, they're adults now, but they will always be my children. And in the midst of realizing they could call bullshit on me faster than anyone because they could see it. They could see the performative kind of leadership narrative that I was convinced I was good at doing. but they would call me out. And so I worked to discipline myself to sit in indecision, in lack of certainty, to rest, to feel in those moments the opposite of powerful. I also learned that it sounds like asking questions like, what am I not seeing? Or let's continue to talk about this a little bit longer. Or even, and I've had to do this many times, say in response to my children, because like I said, they are the ones that first really pushed me to do this, respond back by saying, I don't know that I fully understand yet. I mean, for them, it was kind of revelatory that their mother would ever admit that they didn't know anything. And I always remember in those initial years, I mean, I still struggle with this now, but my kids, since they were early teens, they pushed those buttons. And because I was so honored to be their parent, I did slow down. The leader in me stopped bullshitting and I stopped spouting out things that I was certain of. And instead I listened, or I said, I don't know. And what's shifted for me in those moments and what continues to shift in those moments is that if you're a strong leader, you don't have to prove that you know everything. It's not what is expected of us. In fact, to be a strong leader means to recognize that anyone in the room with a better idea doesn't intimidate you. That your opportunity as a leader comes in your creating an environment for them to share that. It is in your service to their beautiful idea, not to steal it, to highlight it, to encourage it, to provoke that idea, and to empower it. And this is what I wanted to do with my kids. This is desperately what I want to do for others. And it feels feisty for me because I initially am so uncomfortable when I feel like I don't have the answers. And yet it lets me off the hook. It creates opportunity for me to learn. And better than anything, it means that I don't have to have the answers because I am not the smartest person. So I want to ask you this week, where are you answering questions too quickly with certainty that maybe you haven't fully asked yourself, do I really know this to be true? Or do I need to fill the space so that others will believe that I know? Because I think the future leader needs to ask more questions and admit to lacking the knowledge more so that we can be seen as people, individuals who are seekers of truth, who are not bestowers of truth. It's not that we are heralding that we know everything. It's that we are heralding, let's get together, work together, and let's find the knowledge together. Let's collaborate and let's do it at the pace of everyone. And let's not fill those awkward moments where we don't really have the answers with bullshit, right? I'm tired of that. I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm grateful for the discipline to practice this, to sit in the discomfort. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity to be pushed this way, initially by my children, but now by the world, by complexity, by the uncertainty that is at every turn. So think about it. Ask yourself, where in your leadership right now are you answering too quickly? Not because you're clear about what the answer is, but because the gap, the space, the silence makes you uncomfortable. That's what I'm thinking about this week. We'll see you next week for another Feisty Friday.